Hello, everybody. Leagues 5 is coming in just a few weeks. However, we still are waiting for our first bit of real information regarding this year's leagues in terms of what kind of relics or combat masteries or echo bosses. So, for today's video, I've been asking the community to come up with your own relic ideas so that we can speculate on what some cool new relics that we could hope to see in the next leagues would be. That's right. We are so down bad for a relic reveal. We're just coming up with our own today just for fun and to see, what could be a cool idea moving forward. First up, expanded wardrobe. What this relic would do is that all set bonuses require one less item. And really, this idea was kind of what I think was the catalyst for this whole video because I just love this idea of a relic that would open up so many possibilities, yet it's so simple in its design that doesn't completely shatter the game. But this would allow you to, for example, use Darox and not actually have to use the Great Axe. You could use some other weapon instead, or you could get the Guthan's Lifesteal effect. Or you could pair certain set effects, such as the Blood Moon set, and now you can, throw in a Slayer helmet. You don't actually need that helmet slot. It's just a really interesting way. I don't know if it would be super broken or anything like that, but it would definitely be a lot of fun to take advantage of some of those set effects that you get in old school RuneScape without requiring, every single item, and then not being able to use other pieces in place of that. Some people have also suggested this, but you would just always get one set effect kind of locked. And I think that's kind of cool as well, but I like this one a little bit more just because it's just, I think it's a little simpler and it still opens up a lot of possibilities, mainly in what kind of weapon you're using with your set effects. Next up, direct NPC contact. This would teleport you directly to the NPCs in the NPC contact spell. Just like how Fairy Flight was so cool in the last Trailblazer League, where it really opened up a lot of possibilities as to where you would teleport because you got the new teleport to Leprechauns, and that kind of changed the way you played. And honestly, it really made you sort of rethink your approach to old school RuneScape. I think this would be a really cool teleport relic that would also open up a lot of possibilities in that you would be able to teleport to a lot of new places and kind of have a lot of new routes to some of your more popular, skilling or bossing methods. I think that's something that I really liked about Fairy Flight compared to Globetrotter in the last leagues was just the new teleports that changed the game a bit more rather than just having the quality of life from all those teleports available to you. Next up, Makeshift Crafting. All component items will now drop the full item. So think items such as the Hydra Claw from the Alchemical Hydra. You're not able to make the Dragon Hunter Lance without also requiring the Zamorakian Spear and then the Zamorakian Hosta, which would require Asgarnia and Kandarin. But with Makeshift Crafting, just the component item would drop the full item. You don't need those other regions to actually get the other base item. And I think that this would work very similarly to how Ruinous Powers worked in the last leagues that allowed you to get very powerful prayers without necessarily needing those regions. So you didn't need to go to Kandarin to get Piety. You could also pick Ruinous Powers. And this would act very similarly where you're getting the benefits of that region, the component piece that you might not otherwise be able to actually craft your final piece. But, now you're opening up another region pick. And I really like this because I do think a lot of times people feel kind of forced into certain regions, and a relic like this would actually open up more possibilities when you're not limited or restricted to getting the combination regions in order to make certain items. I think Dragon Hunter Lance is really the best example just because it does require all three. Next, Fremennik Vengeance. This would be an item that you get in your inventory that allows you to reflect the next damage that you get. Or it could just be some kind of passive damage reflect. Really, I haven't thought about this all the way through. And honestly, most of these are just ideas. They're not really set in stone. So don't worry too much about the balance. And really, the idea here was kind of a twofold. First off, in the last Deadman mode, I really liked using the Trinket of Vengeance pretty much everywhere and not needing to be on the Lunar Spellbook. I think bouncing back damage and actually intentionally taking damage so that you can do that reflect damage is a pretty cool way to play some of these bosses and does change a lot of PVM encounters. So I would like to see something back like that. In addition, if you played Shattered Relics, I think that the absolute unit set power was pretty fun to use when you were reflecting a lot of your damage. However, it was just a little bit too strong back then, especially because you also took so much less damage. And basically, you could just kind of sit there and eat food, and the monster would sort of kill itself just off the reflect damage. So I think some kind of damage reflect relic, that Thorns playstyle that's really popular in a lot of ARPGs. I think that would be a lot of fun to bring to leagues without necessarily requiring Fremennik to get Vengeance. And even then, you would also need the Lunar Spellbook to even use it. So just something to kind of facilitate that game plan. Next, Crystallize. This is a skilling relic where resource nodes no longer deplete. So things such as, trees, fishing spots, even, iron rocks and stuff like that. What if they just no longer depleted and you could just basically infinitely farm them until your inventory filled up? I think that this would be a really, really fun skilling relic that definitely harkens back to RuneScape 3 if you've ever played that. And I think it would actually just change a lot of things. I know that a lot of people like having some kind of AFK activity to do. And if all of these skilling resource nodes now just don't deplete anymore, that would be pretty cool. And I would love to see how that works when you don't have to actually pay attention to those spots. Technically, I have no idea what kind of development would even need to go into to allow this to happen. But just as an idea, I think it would be a lot of fun. I think it'd be a lot, pretty cool. And I think the skilling relics especially can be kind of the hardest ones to think of. So I would like to see something like this that allows you to AFK a little bit longer while you're skilling. Next, Gluttony. This would double the health and restoration of all food and items. And the icons here actually is coming from, I think, the Food Master sigil from Deadman mode, which kind of did something similar. And it was really strong there because you were sort of limited with your inventory at times. So actually getting significantly more health and more restoration from those items would actually be pretty damn strong. Now, one of the things about Banker's Note that I really liked in last leagues was that I think it really lowered the skill floor to get into PVM, because it essentially allowed you to have a whole refrigerator of food and prayer pots and whatever else you needed going into PVM. And I think a relic like this would kind of act in the same way, where you could go into some of these, raids or bosses with not that much stats, with not that much gear, and just the efficiency of your food, the efficiency of your prayer are going to be big enough that you can kind of just get by, especially if you're pretty new to PVM and you're using leaks as a way to get into some of this later game content, which a lot of people do, and I think that would be fun for them as well. I think on its own, a relic like this wouldn't be that strong or, broken. However, I really hope that the new combat mastery system that they're introducing to Leagues 5 is going to be kind of a turn towards smaller, more niche effects, but you have a lot more, I guess, options. And you can pick a relic, you can pick a combat mastery, or I guess it would be a combat mastery, without necessarily giving up something that's so much stronger. So there would be more choice and more flexibility, kind of similar to what you would find in a standard, RPG talent tree system where there's a lot of different nodes to pick from. So for me, I think, thinking about the future of relics and what combat masteries could be, things like this would actually be really fun to use, because I could see a use case for it without having to necessarily compete against other really strong relics. Again, I don't know what combat masteries are going to be like, but that's why, I think things like this would be kind of cool. Just little niche things that you could add to your setup without necessarily having to fight against better options. Next, focus. Standing still would increase your damage. So maybe after a certain amount of time, you get a buff, or it could be a stacking buff that goes to a certain amount. And I love this relic idea because I think so much of high-end PVM is about good movement, and you see some of the best PVM players and they're doing insane movement. They're getting 3 gear swaps and they're moving every single tick, and they got their prayer swaps. That is really, really cool and really fun. However, I think it would also be fun to see those players now have to play with this relic, where now you want to stand still as much as possible and you want to really only move when you absolutely need to move. Because then, you can't just run around and dodge every mechanic. Maybe there's some mechanics that you have to pre-position for, or you have to, pre-move and then stand still, and now maybe you can tank one mechanic. I don't know. That would just be a pretty cool way of approaching some of these bosses where you don't have the option always of just standing still. I think this would also make some things like the blowpipe, which becomes a one tick speed in the like Trailblazer setup when you had the double attack speed. Typically, that was not always the best to use because you do have to move a lot. But if you had a relic that kind of complemented that, where you're just standing and just like you're like a glass cannon just shooting out as much damage as you can do while standing still, I think that those kind of items would be a lot of fun to use, and you don't have to always be moving back and forth. So I really love this idea. I think it would be a lot of fun to play with this, and definitely open up some new strategies for bosses that you're already so comfortable doing with the movement. Finally, kill streak. Killing monsters would increase the damage of your next special attack. And I'm going to be honest here, I haven't really thought this one like completely through, but my main idea has been that I wanted to come up with some kind of new special attack relic, because the current special attack relics are very much just, you just spam your special attack, recharge it either at your house at like an ornate pool, or you use like the desert. But I think coming up with a new special attack relic like this would actually be a lot of fun to use. Basically something that stacks up and increases the damage of your next special attack, and then you just like, when you press it, now you just blow up a monster. Like, it does so much damage. I don't know if killing monsters would be the best, just because, if you're grinding the same monster and there's not a lot of smaller monsters to kill, maybe that wouldn't work. But I just kind of love the idea of, holding your special attack and then just blasting a ton of damage with it, where you're really just like destroying a monster with one special attack, instead of dumping like a whole bunch of special attacks, which is kind of what we've seen for the last like 3 leagues now with special attacks. Again, all of these are just fun ideas that, I've been sort of coming up with and seeing what other people have said, and then sort of like making it, I guess, work a little better. But I hope you guys had fun with these. They're all just ideas. If you have any more ideas, feel free to post them below, especially, some of those smaller, I guess, niche effects that could be hopefully seen as the combat masteries. And yeah, I hope you guys had fun with this one. I really hope we actually get some real relic reveals coming soon. Again, all speculation right now and just guesses. But I think it's still fun to come up with those ideas, because I think that a big part of leaks is that like theory crafting part, where you're just coming up with ideas about what could work. So hope you guys liked this video, and hope we get some more information coming very soon. I'll see you guys, and have a wonderful rest of your day.